With some 2,000 children still separated from their parents by the U.S. government, the president is rejecting one of the proposed long-term solutions. He says he does not want more judges. He suggests throwing out undocumented immigrants without a hearing. Joining us now, Democratic Senator Doug Jones from Alabama. Senator, thanks so much for being with us. You spent your life in the legal profession as a prosecutor and whatnot. What do you make of this assertion from the White House that the president is not saying no due process? A lot of negatives from the White House there when it says it doesn't feel like it needs to send the immigrants through a legal system.
You know, John, one, I appreciate the opportunity to be here. When you start pulling back people's constitutional rights, it's a real slippery slope, no matter who it is. And so, this bill that we had looked at last spring, last winter, would have brought more judges, would have made the system more efficient, moved things through. I think we've got to afford due process in this country to every citizen and every non-citizen. Everybody who has their feet on the ground in the United States of America is afforded due process under our Constitution. I think we do need more judges. I do think we need a system that can move people through the system more efficiently, but yanking their constitutional rights and just wholesale sending people back is just simply not the answer. And as I said, I just think that gets to be a really slippery slope.
It looks like the so-called compromise bill in the House is going to go down if it gets a vote at all, but there are some different so-called skinny proposals. Ted Cruz and others have suggested legislation that would add more judges and allow parents to be held alongside their children, circumvent Flores for a longer period of time. Could you support that?
I'd like to look at a little bit more comprehensive approach. I mean, certainly, the issue du jour almost is the separation of families. And this was a crisis that the president and the administration created. And now they're just scrambling to try to figure out how to fix this because they really didn't think through the long-term consequences. I'd like to see a little bit more. I'd like to go back. Some Democrats may not want to do DACA and the immigration because it is such a hot-button issue. But I think we need to really look at a little bit longer-term solution. We can do border security, and that's what's getting lost often, is that the president talks about border security, but what has happened is that legal immigration has also gotten caught up in this debate, and that's what's caused some of the House bills to fail.
Just to be clear, though, it doesn't sound like you are ready to support one of these smaller, discrete measures that would add more judges, but would also allow parents to be held along with their children for a longer period of time. You don't seem like a committed yes on that.
I'm not committed. I'm not a committed yes. I would like to look at those because I do think it's an important issue that we got to face. But the devil's in the details. There's so many things that are being just floated around right now, and Democrats haven't been in the discussion as much. They need to pull Democrats into the discussion.
Do Democrats need to insert themselves into the discussion?
It's hard to do, John, when you've got people meeting behind closed doors, just like they did with the health care bill last time. We have to react to the stories that come out as we see them, but we're always open. At least I think most Democrats are open to trying to work to find that common ground to see if we can get something done.
One of the big developments that happened overnight was not on this immigration issue. It was on the issue of trade. Harley-Davidson suggesting it would move production for some of its motorcycles overseas because of the president's steel and aluminum tariffs. The president over the last few minutes has been going after Harley-Davidson, saying this move was going to happen anyway. But what do you make of what Harley-Davidson decided to do here?
Well, what I'm worried about is that is just the first of many that we're going to see as a result of these tariffs. I don't think the tariff process and the announcements that have come out have been very good for any number of things. Steel and aluminum in my state are really big. We are an exporting state, but we use that steel and aluminum to make our cars, to make other items. Manufacturing in Alabama is really concerned about where we are. Our farmers are concerned. It's easy for somebody like Harley-Davidson to pick up a factory. It's a lot harder for my soybean farmers to move their farms overseas. So these tariffs need to be really, really carefully thought out and not just shotgun the way we see them. I think everyone in Congress is concerned about the effect of the tariffs. And Harley is just one example, I think one of many examples where we're going to start losing our factories to overseas countries if we're not careful.
We'll see where this goes over the next few days as the president negotiates or slaps new tariffs on different countries. I do want to ask you about the political discourse right now, and I'm really interested in your opinion here. You obviously are a Democrat in a red state. You won a special election that at times got very heated to say the least here. What would you like Democrats to do? How would you like Democrats to go after this administration? Maxine Waters called for confrontation with members of the cabinet. Others are saying that goes too far. We'd like to talk about health care. What's the right way to take on this administration?
Well, you know, John, you said something interesting. You said my race got very heated, and it did, but we didn't engage in that in my campaign. We stayed focused on issues, and I think the way to challenge the administration is only on issues that you would disagree with them on, but also to agree when they may propose something that might help the state or the country. I think we got to get away. I talked about in my campaign of having more dialogues than monologues. And when Democrats start trying to get down into the same level and essentially taking the bait, and that's what's happening here. The president's just throwing out some red meat for Democrats to latch onto. They do, and it ends up hurting us. We need to be focusing on the issues of the day, the immigration issues, the trade issues, the manufacturing issues, the jobs and education, and healthcare is still a driving force in this country.
But
we can stay focused on those.
But I've heard from Democrats and the left all morning on Twitter and in my phone just going off right now that why should Democrats disarm here? Why should we let the president spout off and be uncivil without fighting back? And they also note correctly the president won doing that.
Yeah, well, I'm not saying don't fight back. You fight back on issues that are important. You don't have to fight back with name calling and bullying and trying to yell people down. Fight back on the issues. I still believe that the issues that we have facing this country, that Democrats have better solutions. That's how you fight back. You fight back in the trenches with the issues of the day. I just don't believe, I'm sorry, maybe I was raised different than some of these folks, but I just don't have to think you have to get down in the gutter and name call and try to bully people like we see often happen, because you're not going to win a Twitter war with the President of the United States, but you can win the issues war. You can win the day, just like I did in Alabama, by talking about the issues.
Doug Jones, Democratic Senator from Alabama, thanks so much for being with us. Please come back. Appreciate talking to you.
You got it, John. Thank you so much.